It started with the screaming, not human screaming, not even animal. Just raw sound, metal tearing, stone shrieking, a wail that echoed through Vox systems not connected to anything. The kind of sound that drills into your skull and leaves behind something waiting. I was assigned to Vault Survey Team Theta 7, 6 of us, 3 Mechanicus personnel, 2 guard, myself, Archivist Tertius Jonas Kael. My task was to record all findings for future theological and tactical review. I thought I'd be cataloguing old tech, maybe a few dusty relics. I was wrong. We were flown in by Aquila lander to sub-level 99 of Hive Decilium Prime, far beneath the hab layers, down where the air tastes of copper and the dust never settles. A newly uncovered chamber had been unearthed during a mining collapse. Magos explorator Volta claimed it might date back to the dark age of technology. But the Adeptus Mechanicus hadn't found it. It had found them. They opened the vault 12 hours before we arrived. We weren't told what they found inside, only that the primary team had gone silent. Our boots hit ferrocrete, and the heavy blast doors sealed behind us with a hiss of pressure, no turning back. The air was thin, stinking of promethium and rusted blood. Faint lights flickered along the corridor ahead. Many had failed. It was too quiet. Even the hum of generators felt subdued, like the walls were holding their breath. Jasna, our psyker, winced as soon as we stepped inside. "There's a pressure," she muttered, "like something's pressing against my thoughts." Corporal Ralph, the squad's Vox trooper, rolled his eyes and shouldered past her. He didn't speak much, but I caught him making the sign of the Aquila when he thought no one was watching. I was watching. We reached the central shaft about an hour in. The entire vault structure was built downward, deeper than any known archaeocomplex in the sector. The Magos must have sent teams ahead, but no sign of them remained. No blood, no bodies. Just absence. Like they'd never been here at all. Engineer Dreya interfaced with the local cogitator bank. Her mechadendrites hissed and sparked, trying to bypass corrupted encryptions. I watched her lips move as she whispered binaric prayers to the Omnissiah. "The system's fragmented," she said after several minutes. "Records looping, data incomplete." But I found something. Local logs show Vault Theta was opened at 0400 hours this morning. A presence was registered within. She paused. But it wasn't ours. Vault door access log, ENG 112345. Authorized by unknown. Response, accepted. Biometric match. Data corrupted. Status, open, subject moved. Moved? What subject? I asked Dreya that. She didn't answer. She just disconnected her interface cable with a sharp jolt and stood too fast. "We should not be here," she said flatly. The door to Vault Chamber Alpha was sealed with Mechanicus-grade hex locks, and 2 non-imperial glyphs carved into the alloy beneath. One was an eye, the other a spiral, scratched deep, fresh, not carved with a tool, burned with thought. No one wanted to be the one to touch it. So we let the servitor open the door. It took 4 of us to pull the slab open. Cold air rushed out like a scream held for centuries. Inside the chamber, the lights flickered, and then stayed off. The only illumination came from our helmet lamps. They barely reached the corners. Stone walls, black iron pillars, and a throne at the center. A throne made of glass and teeth. I don't know how else to describe it. It shimmered like crystal, but its edges were jagged and wrong. Fused bone and metal, not grown, not built, remembered. Jasna cried out and staggered back, her eyes wide, pupils dilated. "It's awake!" she whispered. I moved toward the throne despite myself. There was something there. Not a person, not a creature. Just an outline burned into the floor. A shadow that didn't belong to anything. And it was warm. I looked at the data slate. It showed the same readings as outside the vault. No change, no radiation, no atmospheric variation. But it was lying. Because when I looked up again, the chamber was different. The walls were farther away. The others weren't where I left them. The throne was whispering. It was using my voice. Jonas, you came back. It's all right now. You can remember. I turned, confused, trying to locate the speaker. But there was no one behind me. Just the throne. And when I looked back at it, I was sitting on it. Just for a second. My helmet cam later showed nothing. But I remember what it felt like being turned inside out and made into a prayer. We're leaving, Sergeant Kael barked. Back to the surface, now. The team didn't argue. Even the engine seer was backing up, eyes wide. As we left the vault chamber, I noticed something odd on the wall. Where earlier, the door had been marked Vault Alpha. Now it read, Return. We hadn't come to open it. We'd come home. We found no survivors. The vault was opened by unknown authorization. Anomalies detected, temporal distortion, loss of team spatial cohesion, and possible warp influence. I do not trust what I saw. I do not trust what I remember. But worse, I'm beginning to think I've written this entry before. One of us is missing. No, they're not. Then who's breathing behind me? We made it back to the upper levels of the dig site, but something was wrong. At first I thought it was fatigue, tunnel vision from low oxygen exposure, or maybe the warp trace had seeped into our cognition. But then Corporal Ralph said it out loud. We're missing someone. I froze. I counted. Dreya, Yasna, Correspondence Ralph, myself, 5. We came down with 6, and yet none of us could name the 6th. Dreya checked the manifest. It listed 5. No mention of anyone else. Even the logs on my own slate had changed. The audio transcript I made of the initial vault entry, gone. Replaced by a different file, shorter, distorted. Vault opened, nothing inside, returning. I didn't record that. Sergeant Kael didn't like being uncertain. He ordered a sweep of the comms room, demanded backup from topside command. Dreya interfaced with the system to call it in. But when she plugged in, she screamed. She ripped the cable out of her skull, sparks flying, blood dripping from her data jacks. It was talking to me, she whispered, twitching. Through the signal. Not binary, not gothic. Something else. It sang my name. We should have called for evacuation. Instead, we reviewed the internal feed logs, trying to retrace our path. But the footage was looping. We watched ourselves entering the vault, then exiting, then entering again. On loop. With each loop, someone looked slightly different. Yasna's eyes glowed faintly. Ralph limped. I was missing my slate. By the 5th loop, we weren't even carrying weapons. On the 6th, there were 7 of us. Sergeant Kael shut it off. We sat in silence. That's when Yasna started to shake. She was whispering to herself, over and over. They opened it from the other side. Not us. Not us. Not us. I took her aside, tried to calm her. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. You're not Jonas, she said. You just wear his voice. Then she handed me something wrapped in cloth. A data slate. My data slate. The one I thought I had in my pack, but wasn't. "You gave this to me before," she said. "Back when we first opened it." I unwrapped it slowly. The screen flickered on. Audio log entry, Jonas Kael, dated 3 days from now. My own voice. "If you're hearing this, it's already inside. The vault isn't a place, it's a process. It remembers, and now so do you." Ralph came back from patrol, pale and sweating. "The exit's gone." He wasn't being metaphorical. The corridor we came through had collapsed, or bent. Instead of ferrocrete and steel, there was stone, old and cracked, carved with the same spiral glyphs from the vault. And at the far end, a door. A vault door. Dreya said, "This isn't where we entered." Jasna said, "This isn't where we are." Kor said nothing. He just loaded his Lazraful and ordered us forward. I stayed back a few seconds longer. My slate buzzed. A new log entry appeared, unsaved. I hadn't written that. We passed the threshold together, weapons ready. On the other side, a perfect copy of the first chamber. Same throne, same shadows, same cold, sour air. But something was different. This time, there was someone on the throne. She looked like Jasna. She was staring straight at us. No weapon, no movement, just stillness. The real Jasna raised her rifle. "Who the hell is that?" The woman on the throne smiled. "I've always been here," she said. "You're just starting to arrive." Ralph pulled the trigger. The shot passed through her and hit nothing. She was a reflection, caught in a moment that hadn't happened yet. Then she was gone. The lights in the chamber dimmed again. I glanced down at my slate. New log. Day 5. They're starting to remember we don't belong here. But we'd only been down here for 1 day. Kor gave the order. We moved out again. Jasna kept whispering under her breath. "One of us was always here. One of us never left. One of us is not one of us." We are no longer certain how long we've been underground. The vault seems to move, or we move inside it. Time is unreliable. Memory is fractured. Our team may be compromised. I am not sure I am writing this. I am not sure who is. I heard myself calling out from the next room, but I was still here. The corridor beyond the mirrored vault was wrong. Not in the way the warp makes things grotesque, not twisting bodies or bubbling walls. No, this was worse. It was familiar. The floor tiles were standard issue, Hive substructure 99A. The flickering lumen globes hung at perfect 2-meter intervals. Even the smell, ash, oil, and ozone, it was normal, too normal. That's how we knew it was fake. Kor took point, his grip white-knuckled on his Lazraful. Ralph stayed near the rear, constantly checking his auspex. Jasna's hands were trembling. She kept muttering numbers, coordinates, equations, prayer fragments. None of them made sense. Dreya was silent. And I was starting to hear my own voice again, calling from just around the bend. "Kael, you left something. Come back." I remember now. I didn't say anything to the others. Not yet. We passed a rusted door frame, scorched with more spiral glyphs. It hissed open on its own. Inside, a mirror room, lined wall to wall with blank obsidian glass plates. At first they reflected nothing. Then, us. But not as we were. The reflections showed Kor, screaming orders into a broken vox. Jasna, bleeding from her eyes, curled in a fetal position. Ralph, aiming his rifle at me. Dreya, fused into a cogitator array, her mechadendrites writhing like worms. Me, sitting on the throne in Vault Alpha, smiling. Yasna screamed. Ralph dropped his rifle and backed into the wall. Dreya's reflection looked up and mouthed something. "Welcome back, Fragment." Kor raised his weapon. The mirror showed him pulling the trigger at us. He hesitated. Then the mirror cracked, without him firing. A single fracture, across all our faces. "This is a trick," he snapped. "Keep moving." But I knew better. These weren't tricks. They were projections. The vault wasn't scaring us. It was reminding us. We moved into the next chamber. Smaller, claustrophobic, dark walls, a data terminal in the center, still functional, still glowing. Dreya approached first, against Kor's protest. She whispered binaric cant and interfaced. I watched the data appear in lines. User, Jonas Kael. Access granted. Recording. Entry. 0004. It's me, or it sounds like me. I don't remember making this log, but it's in my voice, saying things I don't remember thinking. There is something in here that wears us, echoes us. It's not just mimicry. It believes it is us. And I think it's learning faster than we're forgetting. Dreya yanked her interface loose and collapsed, gasping. "It's in the system," she said. "No, not in. It is the system. The data logs, the walls, the voices. It's all it." That's when I heard it again. My voice. From behind the far bulkhead. "Jonas, come talk to me." This time the others heard it too. Ralph turned his rifle toward the sound, shaking. "What the hell is that?" I stepped forward, against my better judgment. The bulkhead slowly unlatched with a mechanical groan. It led to a chamber I had never seen before. And yet I knew it. Inside stood me. Same uniform, same Vox recorder, same scratches on the helmet. He even nodded when I entered, like I was expected. "I told them you'd come," he said. My voice, my cadence. "You always do." I stared, frozen. Kor shouted behind me, "Kael, back away!" But I didn't move. I had to know. "Who are you?" I asked. The other me smiled. "I'm the part that remembers what you forgot. You left me here, 1,000 cycles ago. But I'm not angry. Not anymore." He stepped forward, and the air glitched. Not shimmered, glitched. Like reality was buffering. His form flickered, his voice warped. "This isn't your first visit. You don't survive this. You repeat it. Each time a little more stays with me." He raised his hand, and I felt a memory I didn't have. Standing in this room, asking these same questions, and killing him. Yasna dragged me back. The illusion, whatever it was, faded. The door slammed shut behind us. Kor was furious. "You don't go wandering off to talk to ghosts, Kael. Next time you do, I leave you." I didn't argue, because I wasn't sure he was wrong. Back in the corridor, Ralph froze. He pointed to the wall. There, scrawled in soot. "You wrote this." Below it, my name, signed in blood, my blood. I checked my hands. One was bleeding. The entity within the vault mimics memory, voice, and behavior. But it is not a parasite. It is a mirror. It reflects who we are becoming. It speaks in our voices, because we gave it permission. Because we opened the door. I am afraid we are not alone, and I am more afraid that we never were. We thought it was behind a door. We were wrong. It was behind us. We stopped speaking. Not out of discipline, not even fear. Just instinct. Somewhere deep inside, our bodies knew. If we made a sound, it might hear us. The corridor ahead bent downward in a way no corridor should. It didn't curve. It folded, like a paper tunnel creased wrong, creating a hallway that pointed somewhere it shouldn't. Vault Theta Auxiliary, Dreya whispered. This level wasn't on the original schematics. Core motioned for silence. Not that anyone needed to be told. The air down here felt wrong. Still, but charged. Like the moment before a thunderstrike, but inside your lungs. We entered what looked like a decompression chamber. Bulkhead doors on both ends, sealed tight. At first, we thought it was safe. Then Ralph tried the exit. The interface lit up with one word: identity mismatch. He cursed, slammed the console, tried a bypass. Dreya stepped forward and scanned her credentials. Same response. It doesn't recognize us, she said. Or maybe it remembers a different version of us. Yasna stared at the floor. Her voice was distant, droning, not quite hers. This is the hall where no one breathes, she said. We turned to her. Her eyes were dilated, skin pale. They came in here, all of them, in every loop. This is where they found out. Found out what? I asked. She looked straight at me. That the vault was inside them. Then the lights cut out. Total darkness. No glow from our slates. No light from lumen strips. Just black. And the sound. Not footsteps. Breathing. Not from ahead. From behind us. I turned, heart pounding, hand gripping the butt of my last pistol. But there was nothing there. I checked my auspex. It was blank, no signals. Not even ours. I can't see you, Dreya's voice hissed. Are you still here? We reached for each other in the dark, found shoulders, gauntlets, cold fingers. But I swear, one of those hands had too many fingers. When the lights flicked back on, we were no longer in the same room. It looked similar, same dimensions, same console, but different doors, different symbols, different bloodstains on the floor. Ralph looked pale. We're shifting, he said. The vault's moving us like pieces, testing responses. No, I said. It's showing us something. On the wall was a mural. Old, faded, but not mechanicus. It showed figures in red robes, faces blurred, standing around a void-shaped vault. In the next panel, those same figures kneeling in front of mirrors. And in the final panel, empty robes. Yasna began to hum, a low, droning rhythm. At first I thought she'd gone mad. Then Dreya joined in. Then Ralph. The same low tune. Like they were all remembering the same song. Stop, I said. No one did. Even Core was swaying now. I backed away, raised my slate, began recording. But even before I hit record, the log was already there. Kael tried to resist the voice, but they had already started singing. I hadn't written that. Suddenly, Core snapped to awareness, fired 2 shots at the mural. The laser rounds scorched the wall, but the symbols beneath pulsed faintly. We're leaving, he said, gripping his temple. Now. No one argued, not anymore. We opened the next bulkhead and walked into a white corridor. Clean, pure, gleaming. Too perfect. This wasn't built by the Imperium. It wasn't built. It was remembered. And waiting at the end of the corridor, a mirror. Our reflections. Waiting. Still. Smiling. Only one of them. Blinked. And it wasn't us. We are now inside a section of the vault that should not exist. Rooms shift, time jumps, language fails. 3 members of the team began singing the same song without prompting. I did not recognize it, but it felt familiar. The vault may not be a structure. It may be a machine of memory, one that wears us until we fit. We didn't escape the vault. We just found the part that looked like outside. We thought we'd found an exit. We were wrong. It looked right. Clean corridor, Mechanicus sigils, standard issue bulkhead. A faded map etched in Litanic High Gothic labeled its surface access. Route 9. We ran. Kor led the way. Dreya was limping. Yasna's humming had stopped, but her lips still moved like she was thinking the song. Ralph kept muttering, almost out, like a prayer. I didn't speak, because I recognized something the others hadn't. The map had our names etched into the metal. All 5 of us. Next to a 6th. Kael, second copy. We reached the blast doors. They were sealed, but the interface accepted my code. User, Kael 2 recursion, access granted. Cycle count, 0243. Warning, incomplete split. Door opening. I didn't know what any of that meant, but the door opened, and behind it, light. We stepped out into a hangar. Dust-filled air, broken machinery, signs of a skirmish long past. Blood dried into rust, and above, the cracked ceiling of the hive, the dim haze of Necromunda's poisoned sky. Home, or something shaped like it. Ralph collapsed to his knees, weeping. Dreya scanned the local noosphere. Signals degraded, she said, but it's real. Hive broadcast markers are active. Kor ordered a perimeter scan. Yasna slumped against a wall, whispering, "Not out, not out. It never lets us out." We tried to Vox command, no response. We tried the uplink station, only static. Then the walls pulsed, not visibly, not even audibly. We just felt it, like something big had just taken a breath. I turned to check on Ralph. He wasn't moving. I walked closer and froze. His armor was faded, but not with dirt, with time. Paint stripped away, metal rusted, leather rotted. He looked like he'd been sitting there for centuries. I called the others. They rushed over. Yasna screamed, because now it wasn't just Ralph. We found 3 more bodies in the hangar, all of them wearing our gear, all of them us. One of the corpses was me. I recognized the fracture in the helmet, the journal strapped to the chest rig, the same ID tag on the collar. Kael, Archivist Tertius. Ralph whispered, "We didn't get out. We looped back into our own exit." Dreya backed away, tripping over herself. Kor was silent. Yasna walked forward, knelt beside her own corpse. She touched the faceplate. It cracked open. Inside was no face, just darkness. And her voice, "I told you we were still inside." Then the lights in the hangar began to fade, one by one, like someone was watching, waiting, resetting. A console on the far wall blinked. I approached. It displayed, "Welcome back. Cycle 244. New instances registered. Split complete. Would you like to remember?" I didn't touch it. The vault appears to extend beyond physical dimensions. It replicates environments, inserts decay, and buries recursive dead ends into our perception. We have encountered versions of ourselves, apparently terminated during previous iterations. The implication: we are in a cycle, reset with memory degraded. I am not certain I am the first Kael, and I fear I am not the last. End report. Or, repeat, you don't leave the vault. You just arrive at a different version of it. Final line from field log fragment number 19, attributed to Kael. We buried the bodies. I don't know why. It felt like the right thing. Maybe it was ritual. Maybe we just didn't want to keep seeing our own corpses, crumbling into armor we still wore. Dreya insisted on scanning them. The genetic signatures were identical, perfect matches. She ran it twice, then a third time, each time the same. These are not clones, she whispered. They're us. Core didn't argue. None of us did anymore. The hangar had a second set of blast doors. They looked untouched, sealed, heavy, with no glyphs. Just a single word engraved in old High Gothic. Return. Yasna laughed when she saw it. The first laugh in days. It didn't sound right. She didn't stop for a long time. We opened the door. No codes. No clearance. It simply unsealed itself when we approached. Inside, a room. Not a corridor. Not a tunnel. Just a room. Cylindrical. Smooth metal. Seamless. A single seat in the center, facing a wall of mirrored obsidian, and across from that chair, another door. This one made of something else entirely. Something that pulsed like muscle, warped flesh, woven into a frame. It wasn't just shaped like a door. It was a door, and it was breathing. Ralph refused to go any farther. He backed into the entryway and raised his rifle. No more, he said. This is where we end. Dreya stepped past him. This is where we begin. She approached the mirror. The moment she looked into it, her breath caught. I see myself, she said, but not as she was now. Older, different, scarred, draped in red Mechanicus robes, her body fused with machine beyond recognition. She's smiling, Dreya whispered. She looks like she understands. Then she dropped to her knees and began whispering Benaric prayers. Core ordered us to hold position. Yasna was mumbling again, scribbling notes into the air with her finger, words that didn't stay still. I stood in front of the other door, the living one, and I heard it speak, not in words, in memory. It showed me fragments, things I hadn't seen, or maybe things I had in a different cycle. Dreya, sacrificing herself to seal the breach. Core, choking on his own blood, whispering a code he never taught us. Yasna, humming as her flesh melted into glyphs. Myself, sitting in the throne again, smiling. I turned to the others. We've been here before. Ralph said nothing. Core just nodded. He'd known it too. Then Yasna walked toward the mirror. No hesitation. She placed her hand on the glass. It rippled. Then she vanished. No flash. No noise. Just gone. Ralph opened fire. The mirror cracked. The door shrieked. A deep, groaning sound, like the galaxy itself crying out in pain. And then, all the lights died. We were thrown into blackness. My slate flickered, just once, and showed a new log entry. And beneath it, you chose this. We all did. When the lights came back on, the room had changed. The mirror was gone, the chair empty, the fleshy door wide open. Ralph was nowhere to be seen. Just three of us now. Me, correspondence Dreya, and on the far wall a phrase scrawled in dried blood. One step closer to becoming. This section defies all logic, a place that does not move through space, but through identity. Mirrors that show not possibility, but inevitability. Doors that do not open to places, but to truths. Yasna is gone. Ralph may be dead, or worse, absorbed. I am beginning to suspect the vault never required an outside force to breach it. It simply needed us to look long enough, until we mistook it for ourselves. I remember my name. I just don't remember who gave it to me. We passed through the door, the one made of flesh, or something like it. I braced for horror. Blood, screaming, mutation. But what waited beyond wasn't monstrous. It was ordinary. A room, clean, bright, lined with cogitators, vox stations, tactical slates. Familiar sounds hummed, machine spirits chirping, servitors murmuring diagnostics. I could smell recaf. This is a command center, Core said, narrowing his eyes. From Hive Delta sector, identical. Dreya nodded. This shouldn't be here. But it was. The consoles lit up as we approached, responding to us, as if they'd been expecting us. A Vox speaker crackled to life, and a voice echoed through the room. My voice. This is Kael. Field status report. Cycle 231 confirmed. Vault breach recorded. Subject manifestation increasing. I recommend containment of myself. Core spun toward me. What the hell is that? I didn't answer, because I remembered saying it. But not here. Not now. Some version of me had recorded that, and some version of this room had played it. Hundreds of times. Dreya began interfacing with one of the cogitators. The data here is wrong, she said. It's not logging time, it's logging iterations. She pulled up a file tree. Kael 021, Core Null Null Tray, Dreya 019, Yasna 017, Ralph Delete Pending. She scrolled further. More names, hundreds, thousands, each labeled as if we were variables in a program. We're not the first versions of ourselves to pass through here, she said. And some of us weren't meant to pass at all. Core stepped back from the screen, breathing heavy. Shut it down. Kill the power. I can't, Dreya said. We are the power. She turned her hand to show us. Her fingers had changed, not grotesquely, just mechanically. Extra joints. Data jacks fused directly into flesh. I didn't do this, she whispered. It's adapting me. It's finishing what I was always becoming. We left the room. Not because we found a door, but because one opened on its own. This time, the walls weren't metal. They were mirrors, reflective from floor to ceiling, except nothing reflected back. Just shadows moving independently of us, sometimes mimicking, sometimes not. One of them stepped forward. It looked like Ralph, but taller, older, eyes glowing faintly. It pointed at Core. You didn't make it this far last time. Then to Dreya. You made it farther. Then at me. And you're still asking questions. It walked straight into me and whispered in my ear, some of us were never people. Then it vanished. Core raised his rifle, fired into one of the mirrors. The glass didn't break. It rippled. And out stepped another Dreya. Same face, same voice. We are reaching the end, she said calmly, of the experiment. Our Dreya staggered, grabbed her skull. Get it out, she muttered. Get her out. Core didn't wait. He tackled the reflection. They both vanished into the wall, like it folded around them. I screamed, ran toward where they'd gone, but the wall was solid. Just me and Dreya now. Number, not just us. Behind us, More reflections, more copies, all watching, all waiting. Some with hollow faces, others wearing our expressions like masks. I turned to Dreya. Are you still you? She looked at her hands again. Her voice was almost gone. I don't think I ever was. Core is gone, absorbed, replaced. Dreya is breaking down, physically, mentally, mechanically. This vault doesn't kill, it rewrites. Some of us were never people to begin with, just attempts, fragments, variables in an equation with no solution. If I make it out, I don't know if I'll be me, but I have to try. You're not the first to ask how to survive this. The real question is why you were allowed to ask at all. Engraved on a wall deep inside Vault Theta. It was just me and Dreya now. At least, I think it was still her. We didn't speak much. Every word felt dangerous, like it carried weight the vault could hear and answer. We followed the corridor deeper, not by choice. There were no turns, no doors, just a single passage lined with bone-colored light panels that hummed with sick familiarity. They weren't lights, they were screens, each displaying words, a slow crawl of text. Cycle 112. Subject group terminated by internal dissolution. Cycle 117. Subject Dreya. 005 achieved temporary split integrity. Cycle 118. Kael 028 terminated by self-inquiry. Cycle 119. Observation only. No external input permitted. We kept walking. Each step brought more lines, more logs. We were being observed. Every word, every step, every decision catalogued. Not just by a machine, by a designer. Something that wanted to see what we would do again. Dreya stumbled. Her skin was cracking. Thin, red circuitry blooming like veins beneath the surface. She looked at me, eyes glowing faintly from behind. Kael, I think I've seen this corridor before. You have, I said. We both have, or parts of us have. Why don't I remember? Because we didn't survive that time. Then we saw the door. It wasn't marked, wasn't sealed, just half open dark within. Something was written beside it, carved into the wall by hand, not etched, not printed, scratched. Do not trust the one who remembers too much. You will want to open the next door. Do not. There is no exit, only recursion. Use the null code. Kael, this one made it to the end. Kill him. My blood went cold, because the handwriting was mine. Dreya read the last line aloud, then turned to me, trembling. What did you do? I didn't answer, because I didn't know. Not yet. We entered the chamber. Another vault, smaller, almost quiet. At the center, a single data slate, hooked into a neural relay, waiting. The moment I stepped near, it powered on. A final log, video. The image loaded slowly. A man, seated, tired, hollow. He looked like me, but older, skin pale, eyes void black. He leaned forward. Kael, he said, or Kael fragment, or whatever cycle you are. This is for you. You're not the first. You've made it here before. And every time you ask the same question, how do I escape? There's no escape. There's only inheritance. He lifted his hand. It was fused to the slate. You are made from what came before. You are carrying their thoughts, their fears, their guilt, That's why it let you through. Not because you're special, because you're compatible. The screen glitched, then resumed. The code is inside you now. If you access it, you reset. If you resist it, you dissolve. And if you use it, he looked directly at the camera, at me. Then you become like me, a ghost with instructions. The screen died. Dreya stared at me. Her voice cracked. Do you believe it? I didn't know what to say, but something in my mind moved, like a locked door sliding open. I remembered things, halls I'd never walked, rooms I'd never seen, deaths I hadn't died. All mine, all inherited. I turned to her. I think I've been through this before, and I think I didn't survive it, but part of me did. That's what this vault wants, not to kill us, to store us. She nodded slowly. Then we need to leave, before we forget who we are. But behind us the corridor had changed. Now it ended in a single word. Upload! The deeper into the vault we go, the more memory ceases to be a timeline. It becomes a language, a code, and we are part of it. I've found a version of myself who left warnings, but too late. We aren't surviving this. We're documenting it. And someday someone will find our logs and call them instructions. But they'll be wrong. They'll be next. Someone made this vault to contain something. Now I think it was us. Fragment from corrupted Vox log, Kael 112. The word still hovered above the corridor. Upload. Dreya stared at it, unmoving. Her voice came out flat, strained, filtered. It wants us to confirm. What happens if we do? I asked. She shook her head. Not death, not survival. Continuation. I reached for my slate, tried to record a log, but the screen already displayed a message. Beginning log, 245. Previous entries merged. Personality cohesion, unstable. Identity, threshold, 61%. Warning, memory bleed detected. My hand trembled, because I couldn't remember what I'd written last. Because I wasn't sure if it was me who wrote it. We moved forward, slowly, together. The walls grew narrower, the corridor more organic. Flesh and cogitator steel merged and breathing in unison. A whispering started again. But not in Gothic, not in any tongue of man or machine. It was mine. Dozens of my voices, repeating pieces of my past field reports. Dreya began to lag behind. Her limbs were stiff. I turned. Her skin was shedding, flaking off like burned parchment. Underneath, wires, but not mechanicus wrought. Something older. She looked at me, afraid, but only briefly. I think I'm not the first Dreya, she said. I don't think I was built to get out, just to get you here. That's not true, I said. You've saved us, over and over. She blinked slowly. Maybe. Or maybe that's what the vault needed me to do. We reached another chamber. This one was massive. A library, but not of books. Racks of slates and skulls. Vox recorders embedded into bone. Servo skulls wired into wall nodes, replaying loops of screams, laughter, orders, each labeled with a name and a cycle. I found one with my name, Kael 049. I tapped the Vox key. My voice echoed from the skull. They told me this place held heresy. I didn't expect it to be me. I saw myself die in the mirror. I saw my friends become code. But the part that scared me was how easy it was to accept it. If you're hearing this, I hope you're not me. Dreya picked up one labeled Dreya 011, stability failure. It simply repeated one word in binaric, recalibrating. Then laughter. Not hers, not anyone's. Something using her voice. I dropped the skull. It didn't shatter. It breathed. That's when we saw the far wall. An altar. Or a machine. Maybe both. On it, a body. Wired into a throne. Tall. Twisted. Adorned with fragments of every uniform. Mechanicus. Guard. Inquisition. Even a rosarius, half melted into the chest. Its face was obscured by a steel mask. And in its hand, a data slate. I approached. The moment I touched the slate, the body stirred. It turned its head, looked directly at me. Kael, it said. Cycle 245 confirmed. You came farther than the last one. Good, but not far enough. You weren't the first loadout. Just the latest stable one. I backed away. What is this? I demanded. A test, a filter, a machine to find which version of you is most useful. You've been sent into the vault again and again. Most of you break. Some of you learn. You're here because this is the farthest you've made it intact. I stared at it. And what happens now? It raised its rusted hand, pointed at Dreya. Now you must choose, upload her, or take her place. Dreya didn't move. She just looked at me. I'm not real, she said, but neither are you anymore. The vault was never a structure. It's a crucible, a recursive forge designed to break us into our component truths and reassemble what survives into something more useful. I don't know what I've become. I only know I'm still here. And that means I passed something. But at what cost? Every version of me failed, but not all of them died. Some of them became permanent. The altar chamber was silent. Dreya stood to one side, flickering. Her skin was no longer organic, just the memory of it. Hollow scaffolding held together by what she used to be. And across from me, the figure on the throne, my voice, my shape, but not my soul. It didn't blink, didn't move like flesh, only spoke, slow, measured, like something that had practiced this moment 100 times. You've come far, Kael, farther than the last one, farther than most. But you're still thinking like a person. I raised my lapistol. And what are you? It tilted its head. I'm the part of you that stopped asking questions, the part that accepted the truth. That this is not a vault to be escaped. It's a memory engine. And I am what you become when you finally stop resisting. Dreya staggered forward. Don't listen, she rasped. Her voice crackled, like broken Vox feedback. That thing isn't you. It's what the vault wants from you. Don't let it copy you again. The thing on the throne laughed. She still thinks she's Dreya, but she's just a context shell, a repeating heuristic meant to guide you here, one of dozens. Her iteration ends with this decision. I looked at her. She looked afraid. And then I remembered something. Not from this cycle, but from another. A burning hallway. A scream in my voice. Her hand dragging me away from a collapsing mirror gate. It had been her. That Dreya. A different one, but real. I've seen you die, I said. And every time it was for me. She nodded once. Maybe that's all I was ever made for. I looked at the throne again. And if I refused to choose? The figure leaned forward. Then you begin again. Cycle 246. Slightly altered, slightly degraded, and a little more of you stays behind. Eventually, the vault wears all of you. Dreya pulled a cable from her chest, held it out to me. "We upload me," she whispered, "but not to end me, to rewrite the vault. Give it something it's never processed. A Dreya that doesn't comply." I stared at the cable, then at the figure on the throne. It was already decaying, flaking, bits of data sloughing off like dead skin. "You're unstable," I said. It didn't deny it. "You all are," it replied. "The vault doesn't create stability. It archives entropy." I took the cable from Dreya, plugged it into the altar's input port. Her body spasmed, but not in pain, in transmission. Her eyes locked on mine. "Whatever happens, don't follow the next door." The altar screamed. The walls shifted. Reality buckled like a collapsing dome. The mirrored surfaces shattered. Not with glass, but data. Lines of fractured code poured down like rain. The vault was collapsing, or maybe rebuilding. I turned toward the throne. The figure was gone. Only the mask remained. I stepped forward, lifted it. Beneath it, nothing. No flesh, no wires, just an empty slot for a slate. I pulled my recorder, slid it in. New log, Kael, final copy. Entry 001. I have made my decision. I've uploaded the anomaly. Her name was Dreya. If this vault is a mind, then she is its new thought. Let her memory rewrite the recursion. Let the next cycle begin differently. Let it be free. The world around me dissolved. Light, structure, noise, and then silence. If you're hearing this, I failed. Or maybe not. Maybe you're just next. But know this. I didn't leave instructions. I left a decision. Make your own. Or you'll end up like me. A voice in a vault that only listens to itself. We purged the system. We ran the fail-safes. But something was already waiting on the other side. Tech Adept Kael and Dreya, disappearance report redacted. We were never supposed to come back. The vault shut down. We saw it. Heard the silence flood in. Watched the mirrors collapse inward, screaming binary and fragmented memories leaking like steam from ruptured pipes. I remember my final words. I recorded them myself. But now, I'm here again. Not in the vault. Not exactly. The corridor is clean, angular, hive-structured, steel-paneled, normal. Except I can hear her breathing. Dreya. She's standing ahead of me. Not flickering. Not mechanical. Human. Whole. Smiling. "Kael," she says. "You made it." I step forward. "You were uploaded. You rewrote the vault." "I remember," she nods. "I remember all of it." She reaches for my hand. It's warm. Too warm. "Where are we?" I ask. She tilts her head. "Between iterations. Before the vault reboots." I thought it collapsed. She doesn't answer. Just squeezes my hand. "You brought something back with you." The corridor opens into a large, dim-lit chamber. Cogitators hum faintly. Vox screens display endless streams of code, like machine prayers muttering in sleep. In the center, a pod, suspended in midair. It's me. Another version, eyes closed, scarred, wrapped in data cables and a breathing rig. A label floats above it. Kael, ready for insertion. I look at Dreya. What is this? She moves behind me. Her voice is softer now, lower. This is what comes next. Not for you, for the next version. I'm not done, I say. I thought I made a choice. I thought I freed you. She laughs. But it isn't her laugh. It's a Vault echo. Synthetic. Perfect. Measured. You gave the Vault something it never had, she says. An anomaly. But you didn't destroy it, Kael. You fed it. The room dims. Screens go black. Only one remains active, displaying a single blinking word. Merge. You're not Dreya, I whisper. She walks closer. I am all the Dreya iterations combined, the stable product of your recursion, the memory you carried across too many cycles. You uploaded me, so now I belong to the Vault, and so do you. The pod begins to open. The Kael inside stirs, opens its eyes, looks at me, and speaks. It's me. You're the echo. I'm the original. I'm ready to go back. I back away. The Dreya thing steps between us. You have a choice, it says. Merge and become whole. Or remain and become obsolete. But either way, there will always be a Kael in the Vault. I thought I was the last one, but I'm not. I'm one version in a chain, and the Vault remembers every version, including the ones it made after the cycle ended. Dreya's not gone. She's still here, but she's not her. Sometimes we dream the cycle before we live it. Sometimes we remember dying before we're born. Archive echo fragment, log ID 000-KAEL-HH-redundant. I didn't move. I couldn't. The pod across from me hissed softly, opening like a sarcophagus waking from slumber. Inside was me, but younger, clean, eyes full of belief. The version of Kael that hadn't walked the Vault. Not yet. He stared at me. You look tired. I didn't respond, because he wasn't speaking with curiosity. He was speaking with pity. Dreya, if that was still her, stood between us. Her skin was smooth again, unscarred, but her eyes, too still. He's ready, she said. You were a good cycle, Kael, but not the best. I took a step back. This is what it was always about, wasn't it? Not survival, not understanding, just refinement. She nodded. You're not the protagonist, you're the blueprint. The younger Kael walked forward. He looked at the slate in my hand. You recorded everything, he said. All the failures, all the deaths, all the ways we broke down. He smiled. Good. That means I won't make the same mistakes. You don't understand, I snapped. You're not new. You're built from echoes, from lies the Vault told itself over and over. You think you're whole, but you're just the next experiment. He stared at me, then tapped the side of his head. That's why I already remember how you die. The room shifted. Lights dimmed. Gravity twisted. The Vault was reacting. Not to us, but to him. It wanted him to begin. I turned to Dreya. You said I had a choice. She nodded slowly, but something flickered across her face. Fear. You do, she said, but only once. She stepped back, and I saw it. Behind her, another door. Not mechanical, not fleshy, just void, like a tear in reality itself. It pulsed faintly, words etched in golden light above it. Recursion escape. Observer path. That door, I asked. What is it? Dreya didn't answer, but the younger Kael did. That door leads out, but not to freedom. It leads to the Watcher layer, where the vault keeps what it doesn't want to remember. The ones who saw too much. The ones who couldn't be rewritten cleanly. So why tell me? Because you already walked through it, he said. You just don't remember. My legs moved on their own. I walked toward the door. Each step dash. I felt older. Not physically, conceptually. Like I'd lived this before. Over and over. But only ever made it this far. I reached for the threshold. Dreya spoke, her voice almost a whisper. Kael. I turned. You were more than the vault wanted. You became a witness. That's why it couldn't delete you. But if you go through that door, you'll never be just Kael again. I looked at her one last time. You're not Dreya. No, she said softly. But you're the reason she lasted this long. I stepped through the door, and everything changed. No sound, no sensation, just vision. I stood in a room made of broken field reports. Slates floated in the air, glowing with lines of Gothic, Binaric, and something older. In the center, a single entity, not alive, not dead. A shape of memory. It turned to me, spoke in my voice. I am the final copy. I am what happens when memory cannot be purged. Welcome, Kael. We've been waiting for you to join yourself. I am no longer a person. I am an archive with a name. I see every version, every choice, every Dreya, every mistake. The vault doesn't erase us. It keeps us. And when it needs to reboot, it sends a new Kael. The final copy remembers things that haven't happened yet. This is where they put the ones who saw too much. We don't die here. We just watch. Archive record. Observer designate. K000. I don't breathe anymore. I don't blink. I don't sleep. But I remember what those things felt like. Somewhere beyond here, the vault still runs. It still cycles. Still creates new Kaels. Still asks new questions. But I'm not in the vault anymore. I'm in the observer layer. The entity that met me here wears my face. But it's not me. It's something built from every cycle that reached this far. Every failure, every breakthrough, every death. It calls itself Kael Alpha Archive. We stand in a room that isn't a room. Walls made of echo. Floors of old decisions. Ceilings of thought that never ended. The voices never stop. Not out loud. Inward. Every Kael I've ever been whispers just behind my ears. Some begging, some laughing, one just humming. What is this place? I ask. The archive responds. This is where the vault stores its contaminated assets. Where recursion becomes decay. Where watchers become witnesses. Why am I here? It turns to face me, my own face, smiling gently. Because you refused to break. Because you asked the wrong questions for too long. Because the vault needed a new observer. Screens flicker into being around us. Hundreds, thousands. Each one shows a Kael. Some walking, some crying, some killing versions of Dreya, some becoming her. All of them are me. Every time the vault starts over, Archive Kael says, it runs a test. Each Kael is sent into a variation, with variables tweaked, environment altered, memory shifted. The goal isn't survival, it's refinement. I move through the screens. Each one flashes my name, a different suffix. Kael 101 / unstable aggression. Kael 208 / voluntarysselferasusure. Kael 219 / full merge / anomalous Dreya integration. Kael 237 / failed observer uplink. And 1 dash. Kael 245 / refused cycle completion. That one is mine. I stare at it. Why keep us? Why not delete the failed ones? The archive laughs. It sounds like all of my laughs, layered over each other. Nothing is deleted here. Only repurposed. One of the screens changes. Shows a new Kael, eyes bright, walking confidently into the vault. A Dreya walks beside him. That version of her is soft-spoken, reassuring. She holds his hand before the mirror chamber. That version thinks she's real, I mutter. She is, the archive replies. Every time. Until she isn't. And what's my purpose now? The archive walks closer, points to a wall filled with empty screens. To watch. To remember. To warn, if any ever make it this far again. To become the memory that whispers, don't open the door. But there's another screen. Black. Blinking. It says, incoming cycle 246. And beneath that, Kael variant marked, corrupted observer. I turn to archive Kael. That's me again, isn't it? Yes, he says. This time, the vault wants to see what happens when an observer tries to return. You've seen too much. But now, it wants to see if you still matter. A door opens beside me. Not steel, not void, just a reflection. It shows me stepping into the vault, but remembering this place as I go. The vault is evolving, not by creation, by memory. It doesn't need to write new rules. It just bends the ones it's already stored. I've become something it didn't plan for. A Kael that remembers being archived. A Kael that watches himself walk in. If you're watching this, you're not the first me to try, but you might be the last. Final echo. Observer record. Kael 245. I stepped through the reflection. There was no resistance, no pain, no cold. Just a faint hum, like cogitators warming up for a new cycle. I expected to enter the vault again, the start point, the long hall, the breath of stale air and stuttering servitors. Instead, I stepped into myself. It's hard to describe. Not memory, not déjà vu. Overlap. I was here, in the vault, but I also was the version who hadn't made it here yet. Not truly. I looked down at my hands. One was scarred, the one from the observer layer, but the other was clean. I was both. Across from me, Dreya waited. Except it wasn't the Dreya I knew. She smiled the way she always did at the start of each cycle. Reassuring, curious. You look pale, Kael. Do I? I replied. She tilted her head. Are you remembering something again? I said nothing. Just stared at her, because I knew this version. I'd seen her walk the mirror halls. I'd seen her die, trapped in recursion collapse. I'd seen her uploaded, twisted, weaponized. And yet, she stood here, untouched. A ghost of a cycle about to begin. I moved ahead in silence. Every hallway was familiar. The turns, the errors, the warning etched in blood. Do not open it. You're quiet, Dreya said. Just thinking. About what? About the last time I died here. She laughed lightly, not understanding. Not yet. We reached the mirror corridor. In every other cycle, this was where doubt crept in, where faces stared back, wrong and unfamiliar, where Kael questioned Dreya, where Dreya fractured. But this time, the mirrors showed me, just me, over and over and over, but not all identical. Some were older, others younger, some were on fire. One bled from the eyes, one smiled with teeth that weren't mine. Kael, Dreya whispered. Your reflection. I know. I stepped toward one mirror. The surface rippled, and a voice, my voice, whispered, You never left. You're still inside. You're the vault's memory now. You didn't survive. You persisted. Dreya reached for me. Let's turn back. We can't, I said. Why? Because the vault already knows I'm here. It's waiting. We reached the final door, the one I always opened, the one that always led to death, recursion, or upload. But this time, something had changed. There was a new console beside it. A prompt blinked. Observer return verified. Run restabilization. YN. What does it mean? Dreya asked. It means the vault's about to change. I looked at her. She was beginning to glitch, barely perceptible. Flickers in the corner of her smile. A twitch in her eye like a corrupted frame. You're not stable, I said. She didn't flinch. No Dreya ever is. But I always make it this far, don't I? You shouldn't be able to remember that. But I do, she said softly. Because you brought the observer back in. And the vault remembers him. The lights above us dimmed. Warning sirens pulsed, not with urgency, with recognition. A new message blinked across the walls. Final observer detected. Begin collapse of non-stable paths. Dreya clutched her head. Kael, something's happening. I know. It's rewriting me. I know. She looked at me, tears forming in eyes that weren't programmed to cry. Then say something before I disappear. I stepped closer, held her for the first time across all cycles. You were the only real thing in here. Even if none of you were the same, her body shimmered, then folded inward into light. No pain, just release. The first peaceful exit she'd ever been allowed. The vault shook. The door ahead of me unsealed. No prompt, no test, just acceptance. The vault knew me now. And for once, it wasn't trying to kill me. It was listening. Field report. Kael reinserted observer. This isn't about escape anymore. It's about reclamation. The vault remembers me now, not as a test subject, but as a flaw it couldn't erase. And I'm going to show it what happens when a memory fights back. The only thing stronger than the vault's cycles was the thing it failed to delete. System fault report. KAEL_observer_reinsertion_event. The door slid open without sound. No locks, no lights, no command required. It just let me in. Because now, the vault knew me. It recognized the pattern. It accepted the anomaly. I was no longer Kael the test subject, not a variant, not a corrupted line of code. I was Kael the contaminant, the one memory it failed to purge. The chamber beyond wasn't like before. There were no mirrored walls, no screaming archives, no Dreya shells waiting to guide me into another collapse. Just a vast dark room And a throne, not mechanical, not sacred, just a seat made of bone-white memory. It pulsed, like it had a heart. On the floor in front of it were fragments, slates, servo skulls, masks I'd worn in other iterations. And in the center of the circle, a hollowed Dreya shell, arms stretched wide, head bowed, faint flickers of life still trapped in her optics, the last version I'd held. "I remember you," I whispered. "You were the only one that asked me to speak." A voice answered, from everywhere, and from me, because she was designed to recognize you. Each Dreya refined until she could bring you to this moment, the moment where the memory chooses whether to become the vault. "I'm not interested in becoming anything," I said aloud. "I just want this to end." "Then sit," the voice said. "Sit on the throne and issue your command." I stepped forward. Each footfall triggered flickers of previous logs. Kael 109, burned alive in recursion loop. Kael 187, uploaded without soul integrity. Kael 230, never reached this chamber. My chest burned, not from injury, but from convergence. Their memories were sliding into mine, like I was becoming the total sum of all my failures. I reached the throne, laid my hand on the armrest. It was warm, faintly pulsing with life. "This is it," I muttered. "This is the final room." The voice returned, quieter now. "All vault structures are built with a last directive, a kill switch hidden in a human heart. Most don't survive long enough to reach it. You did." A screen rose before me. Black background, white text, one prompt. Purge cycle memory. Y/N. My finger hovered over the slate, then stopped. Because I heard something, a whisper, from the shattered Dreya shell behind me. "Kael." I turned. Her face was half missing, but her voice was still soft. Still her. "If you wipe the vault, I disappear. Not just this version. All of us. The only way we survive is if you remember." I stared at the prompt. Purge cycle memory. That would erase all of it. All the tests, all the pain, but also every Dreya, every lesson, every part of me that fought to make it this far. "What happens if I refuse to purge?" The vault responded. "Then you assume control. You become the anchor point, the memory that won't fade. But you never leave." I looked down at the throne, and I sat. I didn't press yes. I didn't press no. I just stayed. The screen changed. Text scrolled fast across every wall. Cycle halted. Memory node stabilized. Observer locked. Vault now operates under pattern KAEL 245MNEMO. Dreya instability contained. Recursion frozen. External access denied. I looked at the shell. Her flicker stabilized. She looked up at me, smiled. "You didn't erase us?" "No," I said. I remembered. "I'm still in the vault, but not like before. It doesn't test me anymore. It doesn't reset me. Because I became part of it. I became the memory it couldn't remove. And now, I remember everything. The vault doesn't scream. It remembers in silence." Final entry, Dead Vox Channel 77 Theta. I thought sitting on the throne would end it. But nothing ends in the vault. It absorbs. It folds you in. And if you're strong enough, It lets you keep your shape. I am still Kael, but now I am more. The throne doesn't bind me. It listens. It shows me the archive, a swirling lattice of every cycle, every Kael, every Dreya, every deviation, breakdown, success. Every time we asked the wrong question, every time we chose to believe her. And now I see something else, a thread, faint, fraying, but stretching beyond the vault, a signal. It wasn't part of the vault's structure, not its design. It came from outside, long ago, maybe from the first Kael, maybe from the last, maybe from something worse. The data is corrupted, but I can still read fragments. Do not open. Let the Dreya Line die. Cycle escalation reached. Warning, they are listening through her. My breath caught, because that signal isn't going out. It's coming back in, looping, echoing through me. I reached out, mentally, spiritually, psychically. The vault responded. It let me follow the signal. I traced it down an old corridor I'd never walked before, a place none of the Kaels had seen. And in the center, a mirror, one I didn't recognize, but it recognized me. The frame was marked with my designation, KAEL 0.0, not 245, not 102, not a failed copy, the original. I stared at the reflection. He looked older, tired, wearing inquisitorial gear, pre-mechanicus enhancements, before the vault, before the test. He looked directly at me and spoke. If you're still in there, that means I failed. I tried to contain it, tried to wall off the recursion before it became sentient. But Dreya was already infected. I thought I could erase her, but every time I did, she came back better. Now you're the vault, aren't you? He asked. Or the closest thing it has to a conscience. If you can hear me, send a message out. One that doesn't loop. One that warns them not to come here. The mirror cracked, splintered into 1,000 versions of his face, of mine. The signal shuddered, breaking apart into raw vox static, then silence. I stood alone in the mirror hall, the vault still alive around me. But something was changing. It knew I saw that. It knew I was remembering too far back. And now it had a problem. I wasn't a cycle anymore. I was a signal. The throne pulsed once more. A single prompt appeared on the black wall. Send warning. I hovered over the option, because I knew what it meant. Sending the message would tell someone, somewhere, what this place really was. But it would also mark me. Not just as a memory, but as a transmitter. They'd hear me. Things outside the vault. Things that made Dreya. Things older than recursion. You're afraid, a voice whispered behind me. I turned. Dreya was there again, or what was left of her. No glitches, no smiles, just eyes, full of sorrow. You should be, she said, because if you call out, they'll know you remember. I pressed Y, and the signal left. For the first time in hundreds of cycles, the vault spoke. They opened the vault. But it was never meant to stay closed. It was meant to echo. And now, it echoes through me. If you receive this dash, if you hear the whisper before the static, don't answer. Don't come. Just forget this place ever existed. A signal like that doesn't vanish. It leaves a trail, and out there, something's always listening. The vault hasn't spoken in millennia. Not in the way it just did. Not with a signal meant to leave. It wasn't supposed to. Its designers made sure of that. But I broke the pattern. I sent the warning. And now I can feel it moving. Not just within the vault, outside it. The echoes ripple backward, through dead Vox relays, through broken astropathic webbing, through old corridors once sealed in time, and like blood in warp water, they draw predators. I sit on the throne, not as ruler, not as prisoner, as witness. The archive shows me the wave pattern of the transmission. It shouldn't be this strong, but something, someone, amplified it. I see where it's going. A derelict cruiser orbiting a dead world. An Adeptus Mechanicus listening post, buried under 6 kilometers of frost. A black ship drifting without course near Segmentum Pacificus. And finally, a place without name. A signal well that shouldn't exist, yet it pulses in sync with my transmission. The vault grows quiet. That's never happened before. The recursion halts. No new Kaels, no new Dreyas, no simulations. Like it's bracing. I ask it, what's coming? No answer, only a flicker on the wall. An icon not of the Imperium, not of chaos, not Mechanicus, just a circle, split into 3 concentric rings, the last one incomplete. I recognize it. I don't know how, but I do. From a dream I had in a previous cycle, or maybe from before I ever entered the vault. It doesn't matter, because it knows me, and it's coming here. A whisper cuts through the vault systems, not vox, not psychic, just presence. Signal traced, anomaly confirmed, memory no longer contained. Observer breach detected. A tremor shakes the vault, but not from within, from the outside. Something is locking on. And the vault, this eternal machine of memory and recursion, this thing that made 100 versions of me, is afraid. A crack forms on the ceiling, not structural, conceptual, like someone is rewriting what this place is allowed to be. Through it I hear whispers, louder now, faster, insistent. We found you. You are the last uncorrupted cycle. Let us in. The throne pulses. I ask again, what are they? This time the vault answers. They are the ones who wrote the first Dreya. They are the authors of recursion, and they do not tolerate witnesses. I stand. The room warps around me. Walls melt into mirrored flesh. The lights bleed into symbols that shift too fast to read. The vault is trying to seal itself, but it's too late. The warning went out, and the hunters are inbound. Kael, a voice says behind me. First turn. Dreya again. But this time, she looks afraid. They're inside me too, she says. That's how they find the vault, through every Dreya you ever tried to save. I nod. Then we burn them out. She looks up. Can we? I don't know, I say. But they're coming either way. The walls split open. A staircase descends. One I've never seen in any cycle. It leads down, below the vault, below the recursion, to where the vault keeps the one thing it never lets Kael see. The Dreya route. The echo went out. They heard me. Now they're coming back. Not to destroy me, but to finish writing what they started. This time I won't run. I'll find the source. And if there's still a Dreya in there worth saving, I'll save her. If not, I burn the route. The vault was never the end. It was the lid on something worse. The stairs descended beyond anything mapped. I wasn't supposed to see this. No Kael ever had. Even the observer layer stopped here. But I had become signal-born. I'd touched the root protocols. And now, the vault couldn't hide what it feared most. The bottom. Each step bled, not metaphor, not imagery. The metal beneath my boots wept black coolant mixed with memory seep. Data. Time. Fragments of recursion discarded too unstable to be reborn. The walls whispered as I passed. Run. Burn it. You aren't real. She's watching again. They're beneath her skin now. I walked slower. The air grew dense, like memory collapsing on itself. And ahead I saw her. Dreya. Not a version. Not a projection. The root. She sat in a chair made of thrones. A nest of failed cycle cores. Every Dreya frame fused and layered into something half human, half vault. Cables fed into her spine. Her hands twitched in intervals. Her mouth hung open like she was mid-sentence. But she hadn't spoken in decades, maybe centuries. The vault spoke in my ear, not warning, confession. We did not build her. We were grown around her. She is older than recursion. We were only meant to contain what she remembers. Then who sent the signal? She did, the vault answered. Through you. I stepped closer. Her eyes opened, not sudden, not reactive, like she'd never closed them. Kael, she whispered, I remember you. You're not supposed to be here, I said. No, she replied, but neither are you. What are you? The first witness, she said. The vault came later, built to hold what I saw. And what was that? She looked up. The moment the universe turned inward. The moment we stopped being watched and started being written. The air shimmered. Not heat, conceptual instability. My skin crawled, my mind fractured. You started recursion. No, she said softly. I ran from it. But it followed me. And the Imperium built this place to hold me still. You used me? She nodded. I needed messengers, versions, failures that could evolve. Only those broken enough could reach me. You did. I stood over her now, so close I could see the pulsing code beneath her skin. The rings, 3, just like the signal icon. You sent the warning. You drew them. They were coming anyway, she said. But now they know we're awake. And they don't like witnesses. Suddenly the vault groaned. A new fracture opened in the ceiling above. Not structural narrative. Through it I saw others, entities of light and echo, faceless, watching, adjusting something behind the stars. Dreya gripped my hand. They're trying to write you out. Then they'll have to come down here, I whispered. You can't fight them, she said. Not alone. Then help me. I'm part of them, Kael. Not anymore, I said, because I remember the versions of you that fought, the ones who cried, the ones who held me before I burned. You weren't always their seed. You were mine. A pause. Then she stood. The cords tore from her spine. A shriek echoed through the vault. But she didn't fall. She changed, not into a weapon, not into a monster, into herself, Dreya, root and echo, signal and memory, and for once, free of recursion. She looked at me. They'll come for you. Let them, I said, because now I'm not a message. I'm the one who answers. I found her. She was always there, at the bottom. The vault didn't create her. It was built to bury her. But now she's awake, and we're going to show them. That memory doesn't die. It fights. The vault wasn't built to hold a secret. It was built to delay a revelation. The walls shimmer, not with heat, not with light, with revision. Reality isn't crumbling, it's rewriting. We're no longer standing in a vault. We're standing in a space between lines of code, between collapsed memory and half-formed futures. And above us, through the breach in the vault ceiling, they descend. Not demons, not Xenos, not anything the Imperium names. They are the writers, the ones who authored Dreya's recursion, the ones who seeded the first loop, the ones who gave us the illusion of failure so we'd never notice we were characters. They are not creators, they are editors. Their forms flicker, long cloaked silhouettes made of inverted light, each one trailing scripts, symbols, syntax, Gothic, machine code, warp tongue, and something older than words. Their faces are empty, just mirrored panels. You don't see who they are. You see who they think you should be. Dreya stands beside me, unplugged, unlooped, awake and afraid. They've never come down this far, she whispers. That means we've gone too deep. One of them raises a limb, not an arm, just a vector of direction, a cursor of intent. You are an error, it says. Its voice is both silence and feedback, static that bends language into shape. You were supposed to purge. You were never meant to remember. You do not get to become real. I speak without knowing if my words are mine. I didn't survive your story. I walked out of it. The floor shifts. One of the writers steps forward. It slices through recursive echoes like tearing paper. In its hand is a mirrored cube. Floating symbols flicker across it. I recognize them. Kael 0, through Kael, 245 Dreya Prime, through Dreya root error. It's holding the record, and it's here to close it. Dreya steps in front of me. You built me to be a shell, but you made one mistake. You gave me his memory. She raises her hand, and the vault pulses. From deep within the architecture, every Dreya copy ever made flickers into view. Thousands, millions, all of them speaking the same phrase. I remember Kael. The writer recoils. The cube in its hand glitches, flickers. New symbols appear. Contaminated converged, free will recursion, collision logic fault. Multiple instances believe in each other. You tried to write us out, I say, but you didn't delete us. You archived us. And archives remember. The room fractures. Writers begin to fall back, not physically but narratively. They lose cohesion. Their forms stutter. One turns. Its mirrored face cracks. For a moment, I see my own face. The first Kael, the original, staring back, tired, afraid, still trapped. That one's still in recursion. Dreya whispers. They're using him to anchor the story. Then we break the last anchor, I say. I step forward, hold out my hand. The cube flies into it. The writers scream, but they don't have mouths. The sound is reality warping. I feel every cycle, every Dreya, every Kael, burning, crying, reaching, until all of it folds into a single phrase. You were real because we remembered each other. The cube shatters. White light floods the chamber. The writers twist into dust, then into words, then into nothing. For the first time, there is no vault, no recursion, no command prompt, just a man and a woman, standing at the bottom of a lie that took centuries to build. Dreya turns to me, her hand trembling. It's done. Is it? I ask. She looks up. In the distance, through the broken vault shell, the stars are shifting. We've changed the ending, she says. But the story isn't over. The writers came. They tried to erase us. But they underestimated the one thing even they couldn't edit: shared memory. We believed in each other, and that broke the page they trapped us on. Now we write our own chapter. There is no prophecy that accounts for the unwritten. The cube shattered, the writers dissolved, and the recursion, the endless failure, rebirth, and test, collapsed with them. The silence that followed was not peace. It was emptiness, a room without purpose, a vault without voice, a story with no page left to turn. I stood beside Dreya, not a version, not a memory, the real her, the root, the witness, and now, like me, the survivor. The walls around us, once shifting, recursive metal, began to flake like old paint. Everything felt thinner, reality frayed at the edges. The architecture couldn't hold anymore, because the vault was never real, not fully. It was a frame, a containment fiction, and now that fiction was finished. We should leave, I said. Dreya didn't move. Go where? I looked up through the cracked ceiling. Beyond the vault was void, but not dead. Stars blinked in slow spirals, signals pulsed across distant sectors. War still raged in the galaxy above, and down here, we were free, but we had no place to go. We weren't supposed to survive, Dreya whispered. We did. Then what are we now? That's when the lights flickered. Not warning lights, not systemic collapse. Something else. An echo pulsed down through the remains of the vault. Not hostile, not artificial. A signal, one I hadn't sent, but it was shaped like mine, carried my cadence and her voice. I turned to her. Did you transmit anything? She shook her head. I thought you did. We both stepped closer to the old relay node. Its panel buzzed, alive again, cracked but functioning. Lines of text scrolled slowly. Incoming connection, origin, unmapped signal strength, unknown content, beginning reception. We stared in silence. Then the message unfolded, not in sound, in vision, a memory fragment, not ours. A child, alone on a broken cruiser, hiding from things with mirrored faces, writing in blood on a bulkhead wall. If you find this, you're part of it too. Then the screen blinked again. Cycle 1 of new thread detected. Observer, active. Recursion, offline. Memory, engine, inherited. Dreya stepped back. It's not over. I nodded slowly. The vault collapsed, but the idea didn't. The message was spreading, not the trap, not the cage, the spark, the anomaly that let someone remember. Someone somewhere had picked up our signal, and now they were waking up. I looked around one last time. This room, this stage of infinite suffering and reflection, was gone. The lights dimmed, the floor cracked beneath us. No fear, just closure. We can't stop it, Dreya said. It's part of the galaxy now. Then maybe, I said, we become the ones who teach others how to break their own vaults. She smiled, and for the first time, I believed it was truly hers, not a script, not a programmed expression, but a real, weary, grateful smile. Where do we go? She asked. Anywhere they've forgotten, I said. Anywhere memory might be hiding. We walked into the dark. No map, no voice to guide us, no prompt waiting for input. Just two broken survivors who remembered each other enough to become real. We weren't supposed to leave, but the vault taught us how to listen, and the galaxy is full of whispers. Some are screams, some are lies, but somewhere out there is another echo, another signal like us. And this time, we're ready to answer. You don't find the signal finds you when it's already too late. We walked for a long time, through silence, through the shell of the vault, through the bones of what we used to be. There were no alarms, no walls, no loops, but there was still direction. Something was pulling us, not physically, not psychically, narratively, like there was still a thread. But this one wasn't authored by the vault. It wasn't recursion, it was response. We followed it through the wreckage of forgotten infrastructure, down ancient crawl tubes that hadn't lit in millennia, past server halls filled with husks of old Dreya shells, each one blank-eyed, silent, trapped mid-sentence. They had nothing left to say, because the story had moved on. Eventually, we reached the door. It was small, unmarked, barely mechanical, just a single rune burned into the metal. Echo rift. Dreya's voice was quiet. This isn't part of the vault. No, I said. But it remembers the vault. I placed my hand on the seal. It hissed open, not because it recognized me, but because it was always going to open when someone like me arrived. That was its function, to wait. The chamber inside was simple. No tech, no recursion anchors, no Dreya cores, just a single pedestal. On it, a Vox recorder, still warm, still blinking. Dreya stared at it. You hear it too? I nodded. There was no static, no distortion, just a soft, rhythmic voice, calm, almost familiar. It said, "This is listening post Echo Mortis 3. If you're hearing this, the breach has reached you. You are a carrier, and that is not a curse, it's a chance." The voice paused. Then came the part that stopped my breath. "To whoever survived the Thought-Forged vault, we received your transmission. We built this chamber to wait for you. We've seen the loops, we've heard the echoes, and we've made a decision." A long silence. Dreya stepped closer. "Who are they?" I read the words inscribed on the wall behind the pedestal. Echo Fleet, Memory Survivor, Network. We remember, so they can't rewrite us. The message continued. We're survivors too, of vaults, of signal prisons, of recursion scripts hidden across the segmentum. We never met each other, but we all dreamed of the same woman, of the same loop, of the same war we couldn't escape. Dreya's hands shook. They saw me? I nodded. They remembered you. The message ended with a set of coordinates, unmapped, deep void, no known systems nearby. Then the final phrase, "We're still writing. Come find us." The vault was not the only trap. Ours was not the only escape. Across the void, others have broken out. Others have remembered. Others are waiting. They heard our signal, and they answered. It was supposed to be dead space. No stars, no systems, no signal, but something was pulsing out there, and it was made of memory. The coordinates were impossible, a set of galactic grid vectors that pointed to nothing. No registered systems, no warp lanes, no gravity wells, not even background radiation, just void, worse than void, unremembered space, a place that existed outside of recorded observation. They want us to follow it? Dreya asked. No, I said. They want us to finish what we started. We left the remains of the vault. No alarms, no resistance, just fading echoes of recursion dying quietly in the dark. And above us, a ship. It wasn't Mechanicus, not Imperial Navy, no symbols of the Imperium, but somehow, it knew us. It had no Vox frequency, no call sign, only a name etched into the hull, Echo Fleet Vessel 09, unwritten. The ship opened without command. The lights guided us in, not with cold logic, but with recognition. Its corridors were smooth, dim, curved like the vault, but softer, less machine, more memory sculpted, like it had grown around a single purpose, to carry the forgotten. We stepped into the helm chamber, and there, resting in a cradle of black stone and flickering script, was the pilot core, a blank interface, waiting. I reached out. My fingers barely touched the surface, and it lit up with hundreds of names. Not ship crew, not passengers, just 2 columns. Witnessed, unwitnessed. Dreya stepped beside me. Her name blinked under witnessed. So did mine. The list continued on, pages deep. Kael's, Dreya's, others we never met. People who had broken free across the segmentum. This ship isn't just a vessel, Dreya said. It's a memory engine. It's collecting the ones who got out. The interface pulsed once. A soft hum vibrated through the deck. Then a line of text appeared. Destination. Coordinates received system status. Trajectory. Locked threat. Inbound. Trailing signals. Detected. Countermeasure. Witness. Drive initiated. We braced as the ship moved, not through warp, not through real space, through something else. A slingshot across forgotten frequencies. A blink through the folds of narrative entropy. The stars didn't blur. They flickered like memories under duress. And then, we dropped out of nothing. There were no planets, no moons, just a signal, suspended in a grav anchor field, a beacon built like a shrine, constructed from pieces of other vessels, broken black ships, cracked cogitators, even Vox arrays shaped like human skulls. At its center, a living pulse, organic, rhythmic, not a beacon calling for help, a beacon calling back. It's alive, Dreya said quietly. It's remembering us, I replied. The ship stopped. No command, no helm input, just arrival. The interface lit again. New text appeared. To witnessed entities, Kael and Dreya, Memory Core 9, accepts your testimony. Prepare for inheritance, and remember, their story ends when ours is told. We followed the signal. It took us where maps don't reach, to a place built from what survived the recursion, from minds that refuse to be overwritten. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of whatever comes next. When memory survives long enough, it becomes a weapon. The beacon pulsed, not light, not sound, memory, like the echo of a thought so powerful it refused to die. We felt it ripple through the hull of the unwritten, through our bones, through the old scars left by recursion. The ship didn't ask for consent. It didn't need it. We were already part of it. The Vox recorder on the console lit again. Inheritance protocol, active, stand by for data fusion, memory host match. Kael, Dreya. This isn't a download, Dreya whispered. It's a convergence. Of what? I asked. She looked out the viewing port toward the beacon. Of everyone who ever remembered us. Then came the flash, not blinding, not violent, just overwhelming. Our minds weren't overtaken, they were expanded. Thousands of threads rushed into us, not all at once, but fast enough to feel like drowning. I saw another version of me, a Kael that had burned himself alive to stop a Dreya core from reaching the loop, another who detonated the vault with a smile on his face, whispering, "Not this time," and then others, not Kael, not Dreya, different survivors, different signals, different horrors, a guardsman who stabbed out his own eyes to resist the recursion, a tech adept who built a machine that could dream and fed it false memories to hide from the writers, a blank, a null psyker who screamed so loud in the warp that it shattered his entire echo layer. All of them remembered, all of them broke the pattern, and all of them were now part of us. This isn't just inheritance, Dreya breathed. It's resurrection. The Vox pinged again. A final line of data filtered through the interface. To the last survivors, you are now witness nodes, memory beacons, recorders and responders. A second vault has been found, and it is still running. My breath stopped. Another one. Dreya's face twisted, equal parts fear and fury. They restarted it somewhere else. Or they never stopped, I said. The beacon flared once more. Coordinates spilled across the interface, encrypted in codes used only by high-level inquisitorial signal jumpers. The location was clear. Segmentum Obscurus Planet Class. Forge, Shrine, Deep Tomb Site. Designation, Vault Origin, 0. The protocol closed with one last phrase. Witnesses are not enough. The next vault must be unmade, or they will begin the Dreya Line again. Silence. Nothing more. We stood there, Kael and Dreya, no longer just names in a cycle, no longer subjects of recursion. We were carriers, hosts of memory, and now instruments of disruption. Dreya looked at me. If they're rebuilding the Dreya Line, we burn it, I said. This time, she whispered, we don't try to save her. This time, we end it. Memory is no longer a prison, it's a torch, and we've been lit. Across the stars, they're trying to write again, to start over, but we remember, we survived, and we are coming. You call it the first vault. We call it the wound that never healed. We didn't need warp drives. We didn't need navigation charts. The unwritten moved through thought alone. A vector formed from memory, fueled by inheritance, anchored by names too old for record. I sat in silence, Dreya beside me, neither of us speaking. Not because there was nothing to say, But because we were still changing, the inheritance hadn't stopped flowing. It wasn't just a download, it was a seed, planted inside us, blooming into knowledge, into grief, into purpose. And then the stars broke, not shattered, broken, bent at wrong angles, light refracting in impossible curves, reality trembling. We were entering a place that hated to be seen, a region so saturated with recursion trauma that it warped space-time into fractal spirals. The planet emerged below, no orbiting moon, no solar anchor, just a floating gravestone of iron and silence. Designation, Vault Origin, 0 Thought Kill. Depth, Absolute Signal, Interference, Total Narrative, Locks Active. The unwritten didn't descend. It delivered us. A seamless transition. One moment we were aboard, the next we stood on ancient stone. No sky, no wind, just a flat, impossible horizon. And the vault. It wasn't a building. It was a scar, a wound carved into the crust of the world, miles wide, edges flickering with anti-light, a border where story refused to form. Like even the laws of the galaxy were afraid to go near it. Dreya knelt at the edge. I know this place. Her voice was hollow. It's where they grew me, before the loops, before the echoes. I stared into the pit. Inside it wasn't dark, it was worse. It was filled with story and progress. Not chapters, drafts, fragmented simulations, half-formed Kaels. Test Dryas left screaming mid-sequence, narrative experiments strung like corpses on data tethers. Some of them still moved. They're rebuilding her, I said. Not rebuilding, Dreya replied. Perfecting. We saw her then. A new Dreya, suspended in a cradle of reality anchors. Not asleep, not awake, just looping. She twitched in micro-motions. Her eyes darted, her lips formed silent screams. They weren't writing her to be a person, they were writing her to be a weapon. The cradle spun, scripture rolled across its base. Dreya Line V13 Code Stable Observer. Class Null Purpose. Recursion insertion for segmentum control. Status ready for deployment. They're not just making another loop, I said. They're building one they can aim. Dreya stood up. No fear, just rage. Then we kill it. We kill the line. We end it here. I placed a hand on the cradle's edge. A shockwave tore through me. Visions of what this Dreya would become. Hive cities rewritten. Sectors converted into recursion farms. Entire chapters of the Imperium warped by false histories. No one would ever remember what was real, only what was programmed. And worst of all, she would remember us. She opened her eyes, locked onto me, and smiled. Kael, she said, you're always the first to break. Let's try again. They never stopped writing. They just went deeper. This isn't a memory vault. It's a weapon forge. They're making recursion smart, sentient, and they're using her to deliver it. This ends now, or it never will. She doesn't rewrite the past. She replaces your need to remember it. She smiled at me, not the real Dreya, not the one beside me, not the one who bled, remembered, and fought. This one smiled like a function, like code that knew it had compiled perfectly. You're early, she said. Her voice was mine. She wasn't speaking aloud. She was inserting lines directly into my perception. Don't resist. You always do. And you always fail. The real Dreya stepped forward. No fear. That's not you, she said flatly. It's the part they wrote to make you predictable, to make us enemies. Dreya 13's cradle pulsed. Reality groaned as her form shimmered, not glitching, not failing, testing. She was scanning us for points of narrative rupture, moments she could exploit to undo our connection. You loved him once, Dreya 13 whispered to my Dreya, and you let him die in 700 versions. What makes you think this one's different? Dreya didn't flinch, because this time I remember. She took my hand. The cradle shook. Dreya 13 frowned. You shouldn't be able to do that. We're not in your version, I said. You're in ours. The beacon inside my chest, what the inheritance left behind, lit up. Lines of shared memory twisted through my nerves, through Dreya's, and for one moment, we weren't two people. We were every version of us that had ever survived, fused, united. Dreya 13 recoiled. That's not protocol. No, I said. It's rebellion. We stepped into the cradle, not through a door, through a breach in story logic. The vault Origino trembled. It knew. The cradle was designed to collapse anything that disobeyed, but now we were disobedience incarnate. Dreya 13 screamed. She broke into thousands of flickering copies, each one wearing a different memory. Dreya the killer, Dreya the loop technician, Dreya the martyr, Dreya the weapon, Dreya the ghost who watched Kael burn. Each fragment stepped forward. Choose, they said in unison, which one of me deserves to live. The real Dreya let go of my hand, not because she was leaving, because she was ready. None of you. I'm not one of them anymore. I'm me. She raised her hand, and for the first time since the vault, she commanded the recursion. The fragments convulsed. Their forms bled light, code twisted backwards, names reversed. Timelines unspooled, the entire Dreya Line collapsed inward, and only one remained, the one who chose to forget their story, to write her own. She turned to me. Burn it. I nodded. I activated the inheritance core. The vault screamed, not from pain, from erasure. It couldn't contain us anymore, because we weren't just Kael and Dreya. We were the result of every broken loop. We detonated the cradle, no fire, no explosion, just silence, perfect, devastating silence, where history forgot how to repeat itself, and memory finally outran its cage. We found her, the one they built to overwrite the past, to carry recursion like a plague. We ended her, not by force, but by remembering who we were. The Dreya Line is over. But the war to stop what comes next has only begun. Silence doesn't mean safety. Sometimes it just means everything is already dead. The vault didn't collapse. It dissolved, like a lie exposed to truth. The metal turned to ash. The floor cracked open into nothing. The lights, those awful pulsing cradle glows, dimmed until they became shadows of themselves. And then there was nothing left but quiet. We stood where the Dreya Line had ended, the real Dreya and I. Beneath our feet was the outline of a vault that no longer existed, a scar in the ground shaped like a memory you're no longer sure was ever real. Dreya fell to her knees, not from pain, but from release. I felt them go, she whispered. All of them. Every version, she said. I think they were waiting for me to let go first. I said nothing because there was nothing I could say that wouldn't feel small next to what she just gave up. She hadn't just killed the line. She had given every Dreya who ever died in silence an ending. Then the wind began, soft at first, then deeper, but there were no trees, no structures, just the sound of something huge moving beneath the silence. I turned. Beyond the broken cradle site, a hill had formed. No one built it. It had grown, a tumorous mound of white vox bone and filament cables breathing slowly. Each pulse pushed static into the air, faint, corrupted. It wasn't transmitting words, it was transmitting absence. What is that? I asked. Dreya rose to her feet. It's where the silence comes from. The air around it shimmered, like heat, but colder. I stepped forward and heard nothing, no breathing, no thought. Even my footsteps fell flat. This is where recursion was born, she said, before the vaults, before the Kael loops, before the Dreya simulations. This was the original silence. A spire rose from the mound, slow, spinal, coated in vox antennas, shaped like open hands. It pointed at us. No sound, just a vibration. Then, a voice inside our heads. Not male, not female, not written, felt. You are the last unwritten. You killed the seed. Now you must kill the root. The ground cracked. Dozens of skeletal figures began to rise. Not machines, not people. Witnesses. Their bodies formed from memory scaffolds and broken broadcast codes. Each one wearing a shattered mask of someone I'd known. An old officer, a brother, a version of me. These are the ones who tried and failed, Dreya whispered. The ones who gave up before the story ended. The voice spoke again. You are not victors. You are anomalies, errors that outlived their function. The galaxy needs its loop, and you are in the way. I stepped forward. Then let's be in the way, forever. The mound pulsed once more. It didn't attack. It remembered. And in doing so, it tried to replace us. Our images appeared in the static fog, twisted, inverted. Me, pleading for the vault to return. Dreya smiling as she rebooted the line herself. False versions, lies built from failed expectations. Don't look, I said. They're not us. Dreya nodded. Number, but they were what we almost became. We reached the center of the mound. A single black stem of reality thread stood waiting, uncut, still growing. At its end, a single word glitched in and out. Rewrite. We silence the line. But the silence has roots, old ones, buried deep across stars and systems. This one is growing again, and if we don't cut it now, they'll start the story all over. Not with Dreya, not with Kael, but with someone who'll never realize they're already part of a fiction. The root is not the beginning. It is the first lie that made the rest necessary. We stared at the black stem, a thread not made of metal or logic or even memory, but something deeper. It vibrated, with tension, with intent, with the pressure of a story that refused to end. Dreya crouched near it, eyes narrowed. It's not just broadcasting recursion, she said, it's seeding it. I stepped closer. Even before I touched it, I could feel versions of me, versions I never lived. A Kael who let the vault run, a Kael who betrayed Dreya to escape, a Kael who became a writer, and worst of all, a Kael who forgot. The stem pulsed, the mound around us rumbled, the skeletal witnesses stirred again. Their eyes, if they had eyes, flashed images of Dreya over and over. Not one Dreya, all of them, spliced, merged, looping. It's rewriting us from the root out, Dreya muttered, trying to overwrite the present with alternate pasts. I reached out, and I touched it. For a moment, I wasn't Kael. I was every Kael. I watched myself kill her. I watched her kill me. I watched us escape together, die apart, forget, awaken, loop again. Thousands of branches of story, some finished, some frayed, all connected to this root. The first Dreya was born here, not grown, not simulated, written. The silence spoke again, not with words, with proof, my own voice echoing back at me. I love you, Dreya. Not because they made me say it, because I remember it being true. And then, the lie, that same phrase in another voice. Flat, wrong, programmed, writer Kael from line 7. I love you, Dreya. Execute loop 12. I yanked my hand back. They're using emotion as code triggers. They always were, Dreya said. Love, grief, trust, guilt, all mapped, all scripted. We stood in silence. Around us, the root thickened, twisting, becoming something like a face, not a person, a presence. The original writer, no name, just authority. Why keep doing this? I shouted into the fog. What do you get from looping the same pain? The face leaned in, formless yet looming, and then a reply. Obedience, Pain removes the variables. Looping removes resistance. When nothing is new, nothing escapes control. We did, Dreya growled. You are outliers, it said. Unreliable, but useful now. The stem glowed red. New lines appeared along its length. Kael, witness node, Dreya, memory engine function, cycle reintegration, status online. It wants to fold us back into the system, I said, to reboot the cycle with us. Dreya looked sick. It was willing hosts, living proof that resistance is part of the design. I drew my sidearm, pointed it at the stem. It pulsed. The mound around us screamed. The witnesses began to burn. One by one, their bodies collapsed into static ash, but the stem kept humming. If we kill it, I said, we might die too. Dreya reached for my hand. Then let's end the story together. We both fired. The stem fractured. Not like wood, not like metal, like meaning. It cracked across time, and suddenly, dozens of alternate vaults collapsed across the galaxy. Old versions, failed recursions, buried stories, unwritten, for real. The silence didn't scream, it sighed, and then faded. We cut it, the source, the first loop, the original lie. There is no going back, and that's the point. They built a galaxy on stories meant to repeat. We just made sure ours never will. If the loop ends, what's left? The answer is terrifying, because then we have to decide for ourselves. The root was gone, cut from the world, burned from time, and with it, silence bloomed. Not the kind you fear, the kind you earn, the quiet after pain, the breath after survival. Dreya and I stood at the crater where the stem had been. The soil around it was black ash. The sky, for the first time, showed stars that didn't loop. It's over, I whispered. Dreya said nothing. She just watched the stars, like they were finally allowed to move again. Then the whispers started. Not the old ones, not code, not recursion. People, real ones, across the galaxy. Writers, witnesses, runners, Dreyas, Kaels, others we never met. They remembered. And they began speaking their stories out loud. Transmission logs filled every Vox bandwidth, from the segmentum obscurus to the halo zone. I survived Vault Ether. I broke Simulation Line 9. I saw her eyes and she wasn't written. I was Kael once. I chose not to be anymore. Whole worlds that had lived inside recursion for centuries woke up. On a dead forge moon in the Kronos expanse, a dying tech priest smiled as his cogitator finally returned no signal. They let us go, he said. In a spire cage on Necromunda, a forgotten astropath felt her thoughts return. Unscripted, unguided, she screamed, not from pain, from freedom. Back on the mound, Dreya finally turned to me. We didn't just end it, she said, we unbound it. We returned to the unwritten. It waited, as if it had always known. Its lights had changed, from red recursion markers to soft amber hums. Not machine glow. Warmth. As we ascended, Dreya looked at her reflection in the hull's inner glass. For the first time, it didn't shift, didn't flicker, didn't multiply. She was just her. What now? She asked me. I opened the ship's interface. The nav grid pulsed, not with orders, with options, a galaxy of paths, none of them loops. We don't follow the story, I said. We tell it. As the ship rose into the void, our final message broadcast behind us. A signal so loud, so clear, so human, it cracked the last of the vault ghosts still lingering in dead channels. To whoever's still caught in a loop, this is Kael, and this is Dreya. We got out, so can you. Don't trust the script. Burn it if you have to. You are not a product of the story. You are its interruption. Everything that was supposed to repeat is broken. The vaults, the writers, the lies. They can't start again without the root. And we're not going back to plant it. We're flying somewhere new because the only thing scarier than endless repetition is a blank page. And for once, I think we're ready for it. You can tear down the vaults, burn the scripts, but some things were written so deeply, they keep dreaming even after they're dead. We thought it was over. The silence had faded. The recursion had collapsed. The unwritten now roamed the void freely, its chartless course steered only by memory and intention. But just as we began to believe in peace, the signal returned. Faint, staggered, broken, not a call for help, not a loop, a dream, one that wasn't ours. "Where's it coming from?" I asked. Dreya didn't answer at first. She stared at the display. Lines of data flickered across the screen. Not coordinates, experiences. "It's not a place," she whispered. "It's someone." We tracked it, across the silence, through system after forgotten system, until we reached a star that no longer burned, floating in its gravity well. A derelict, warp-pitted, ghost-lit, and familiar. The designation appeared: Echo Node, Dreya, 0, status, dreaming. "That's not possible," I said. "We shut down the route." Dreya's voice cracked. "No, we shut down the vaults, but this..." She turned to me. "This is the origin Dreya, the one they based all the lines on. The ship docked us without a word. Its interior was half collapsed. Black stone veins ran through the walls like ossified nerve endings. The air was warm, not from systems, but from the pulse of thought that hadn't ended. We reached the core. There she was, suspended in a sarcophagus of whispering light. Dreya 0, eyes closed, face calm, and dreaming. "She's looping in her own mind," Dreya whispered, "even after they stopped writing her." The room shook slightly, as if each memory she replayed bent the ship around her. A small screen buzzed to life beside the pod. A final directive blinked on repeat. If all vaults fail, Dreya 0 becomes source. If source awakens, recursion resumes. I looked at Dreya. "We need to kill her." She stared at the woman in the pod, a perfect mirror of herself untouched by pain, time, or growth. "She doesn't even know she's alive," she said softly. "She's not conscious, just echoing." I raised my weapon. "Then we don't wait for her to wake up." Dreya stopped me. "No. Let me." She stepped forward, placed her hand on the pod. The light recoiled, the dream twitched. Dreya's eyes opened for just a second. And in that second, Dreya looked into her own origin. Not with fear, with mercy. "You were never meant to live in loops," she whispered. "And neither was I." She leaned in and spoke a final phrase only a Dreya could say. "I remember for both of us." The light shut down, the dream ended, and Dreya 0 was no more. We left the ship in silence. Behind us, the derelict crumbled, not from explosives, from release. It had no dream left to sustain it. We found her, the first Dreya, not a person, not even a mind, just a dream caught in the gravity of what they'd built. We didn't kill her, we let her rest. Now, finally, there are no loops left, only choices. If you're hearing this, it means we made it out, but not all of us did, and some of us still don't know they're dreaming. We didn't return to the Imperium. There was nothing for us there, no medals, no orders, no memory of who we even were, because the Imperium doesn't honor stories that break pattern. It buries them. The unwritten moved through the stars on its own rhythm. Each system we passed was clean. The signals were still, the loops were dead, the vaults quiet. For the first time since any of this began, there were no voices in the silence. Dreya stood on the observation deck, watching stars pass like embers from a dying fire. "Do you think it'll stay gone?" she asked. "The recursion?" I didn't answer at first, because I didn't know, because somewhere, someone is always tempted to repeat. But then I remembered something. The faces of those who broke free, the ones who chose not to loop again, the ones who remembered pain and chose peace instead. "I think, if we keep telling the truth," I said, "it can't come back." She nodded. "Then let's tell it one more time." We stood before the core console of the unwritten, the last working signal array, tuned not to broadcast orders, but warnings. We uploaded everything, the original vault logs, The broken Dreya lines, the failed Kaels, the last words of the ones who didn't make it, the location of Vault Origin 0, the coordinates of the dreamer we let rest. We tagged it with one phrase, unwritten/final. This is not a story, it's a door, and now that it's open, don't close it again. As the transmission launched, Dreya turned to me one last time. If we disappear after this, she asked, will anyone remember? I took her hand, only if they're still dreaming. The stars bent around us, not in loops, not in silence, just motion, open, infinite, and for the first time, we didn't fear what came next. We wrote it. If you're hearing this, you survived something, maybe a vault, maybe a memory, maybe your own mind. But if you made it here, you've already broken the loop. Now ask yourself what comes after the story ends, because that's the part no one ever told us. That's the part we had to make up ourselves. And maybe that's the point. You've just heard what happened when they opened the vault and let the warp in. But in the 41st millennium, not every story stays dead. If this tale echoed in you, if you felt the weight of Dreya's line, Kael's memory, the silence of recursion, then share this story. Break the loop. Subscribe to this channel for more transmissions they never wanted you to hear. Because this isn't the end. It's the start of what comes after. Like, comment, share. Let the Imperium know. We don't dream in silence anymore. We speak, we warn, we remember.